Grandpa Antón, a grumpy old dog, had spent most of his life alone, mistrusting humans and fending for himself. But one fateful day, he fell into the river, unable to save himself and struggling to stay afloat. Just when all hope seemed lost, a kind-hearted rescuer stepped in, pulling Grandpa to safety and changing his life forever. Stay with us at Pets in Love to hear how this incredible transformation unfolded. Grandpa Antón was a mean old dog who had been ignored and left for years. He had spent most of his life fending for himself on the streets, his trust in humans shattered. His fur was thin, and his eyes carried the weight of painful memories. He had learned the hard way that kindness was fleeting and that he was better off alone. When the rescuer found him, Grandpa was curled up in a quiet corner, eyeing her with suspicion. He had seen too many people come and go, and he was done trusting anyone. But the person who saved her was eager to help, even though she could tell he was wary. She had worked with dogs before, and she knew that healing a broken spirit took time, patience, and gentle care. Though Grandpa was far from welcoming, the rescuer knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter in his life. She didn't expect miracles overnight, but she believed that with time, love, and persistence. At first, Grandpa Antón didn't want to talk to the rescuer. He backed away every time she tried to get close, growling and moving away when she offered him food or medicine. He would hide in the corner of the yard and watch her closely. He was sure that she would disappear once he let down his guard, just like everyone else. However, the savior wasn't scared. Her voice was meant to comfort, not scare, as she came every day and quietly set out food for him. She knew how long it could take for a dog to trust again, because this happened to her before. She did the same things every day, but Grandpa stayed as far away as ever. It was frustrating. She would sit nearby, giving him space, allowing him to observe her. But every time she tried to close the gap, to show him that she was there for him, he would retreat further. His mistrust was so deeply ingrained that no matter how gentle she was, Grandpa seemed to think the worst of her. She tried different things, sometimes just sitting quietly with him, other times softly talking to him, even allowing him to come and go as he pleased. But he wouldn't allow himself to be touched. She could see the wariness in his eyes, the cautious steps he took, as if testing whether she was safe or not. The rescuer didn't know how long it would take to break through his defenses, but she refused to give up. She believed that with enough patience, he could learn to trust her. One day, Grandpa Antón got too interested in something while he was walking along a nearby stream. As he moved closer to the water, he lost his footing and tumbled in. He didn't think the stream would be as strong as it was, and the cold water swept him away. Grandpa swam and splashed around, shaking from fear as he tried to stay afloat. His legs were too tired, and the fast-moving water seemed to have no mercy on him. The rescuer had been nearby, carrying supplies for the day's routine. She hadn't seen Grandpa wander off, but something told her something was wrong. When she noticed him missing, she hurried to the riverbank, scanning the area with growing anxiety. Her heart sank when she finally saw him, floundering in the water. Without a second thought, she rushed to the water's edge and with every ounce of her strength, pulled him to safety. Grandpa, trembling and exhausted, lay on the shore, coughing up rain water and gasping for breath. His eyes, usually filled with suspicion, now held something else: fear and confusion. He didn't understand what had just happened, but he understood that the rescuer had saved him. Though still shaken, he realized that she wasn't like the others who had abandoned him in the past. For the first time, Grandpa allowed himself to relax in her presence, grateful in his own way, even though his trust wasn't fully there. After the water incident, the rescuer rushed Grandpa Antón to the clinic, her heart racing with worry. The vet immediately went to work, stabilizing him and administering the necessary treatment. Thankfully, Grandpa pulled through, but he was weak and exhausted. The vet reassured her that with time and proper care, he would recover, though it would be a long road ahead. Determined to give Grandpa the best chance at healing, the rescuer brought him into her home for the next few days. She knew that a calm, familiar environment would aid his recovery, not just physically, but emotionally as well. Grandpa couldn't stand on his own in the beginning, so she made sure he had a warm, comfortable spot by the window where he could rest. Over the next 4 days, the rescuer took care of him closely. Each morning, she would gently lift him up, holding him in her arms and taking him outside to sit in the sun. Grandpa, still weak, would barely lift his head at first, but there was a subtle change. Instead of resisting, he began to accept her touch, his body relaxing when she cradled him. His once suspicious eyes softened slightly, and he allowed her to guide him outside each day. Gradually, Grandpa's trust in the rescuer began to grow. He no longer flinched when she approached him, and his tail would wag weakly when he heard her voice. He still wasn't ready to fully trust her, but the constant care, the gentle touch, and the warmth of her presence made him feel safer. Though Grandpa was still a grumpy old dog at heart, a small yet significant shift had begun. The rescuer could feel it. The wall he had built around his heart was starting to crack, piece by piece. As the days passed, Grandpa Antón's transformation was nothing short of remarkable. His initial resistance to the rescuer's presence slowly turned into quiet acceptance. The grumpy old dog, who once barked and growled at the slightest intrusion, began to soften. The rescuer's care and patience had created a shift within him. One morning, after several days of gentle care, Grandpa surprised her. When she entered the room, he didn't retreat to his corner. Instead, he lifted his head and wagged his tail. Slowly at first, but with more confidence as the days wore on. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. Grandpa was beginning to trust. Over the course of weeks, the old dog's physical strength returned, and so did his spirit. He started to stand on his own, his once weak legs now supporting him with more stability. But more than his physical recovery, it was the change in his demeanor that was truly heartwarming. He no longer avoided eye contact or shrank away when the rescuer approached. He sought her attention, rubbing his head against her hand in the mornings when she arrived, signaling his need for affection. Where once he had been the embodiment of distrust, Grandpa Antón was now a dog who had learned to enjoy the simple comforts of life, being fed, being loved, and basking in the warmth of the sun. Though he retained his grumpy personality, it was now tempered with moments of joy, contentment, and the occasional wagging tail. Grandpa had learned to let go of his past pain, and in doing so, he was free to embrace a new life filled with trust and love. Grandpa Antón's new life was far from perfect, but it was filled with the kind of love and care he had never known. As the weeks turned into months, the bond between him and the rescuer grew stronger each day. Their routine became something Grandpa anticipated: morning walks, warm meals, and quiet moments of companionship. No longer the grumpy, mistrusting dog who once recoiled from human contact, Grandpa now sought out the rescuer's company. He would follow her from room to room, his tail wagging gently in a sign of affection. His once tough exterior had softened, and he now showed his true colors: an old dog with a heart capable of love. Grandpa's days were filled with moments of joy. He enjoyed lounging on the couch in the sun, stretching out on his favorite blanket, and napping contentedly by the rescuer's side. His grumpiness, though still present in the occasional growl or stubborn refusal to do something, became just a small part of his personality, a far cry from the cold, withdrawn dog he had once been. It was clear that Grandpa had found his place in the world. He was no longer just a survivor, but a companion. And while he still wasn't a dog who enjoyed crowds or loud noises, the rescuer's home had become his sanctuary, a place of comfort and trust. Grandpa Antón's story ended with the kind of happiness he had never known in his earlier years. After everything he had endured, betrayal, loneliness, and mistrust, he finally found the peace and love he deserved. His bond with the rescuer had blossomed into something deep and unbreakable. The rescuer, who worked with a dedicated team of animal rescuers, had witnessed countless transformations like Grandpa's, but his journey held a special place in her heart. Her work was not just about saving animals, it was about providing them with the love, care, and trust they needed to heal. Grandpa's transformation was a powerful reminder of why she chose this path in life.